What's up, metal and heavy music fans? It's Flight of Icarus, and I am here with Quest for Metal, and we're going to talk about our most disappointing metal albums of 2021.
Disappointed!
Oh yeah, we're gonna rustle some jimmies on this one.
Oh yeah, I already know. We're gonna get some downvotes, but we'll have a good time too. And I like to keep a positive spin, so I even have a few albums that are kind of like, hey, maybe listen to this instead of this other thing. But maybe you could go ahead and kick us off.
Okay, now this was a hard list to make, even though I just pulled it out my ass because
Yeah, we were originally going to do something
video.
else, and then last minute, Agent of Chaos over here, Quest for Metal. By the way, check out his channel if you have not already. But yeah, go for it.
Anyway, so I got 5 here. We both got 5 picks. The fifth one, to me, it's not as bad as the others. It didn't disappoint me as much as the others on my list, but it's still a disappointment compared to the previous album, so I'm still going to add it. So number 5 for me is the latest Carnifex album. Now, I like Carnifex quite a bit. They're probably one of the best deathcore bands for me, and I loved World War X. I thought that was just a bombastic album, powerful album. Starts off just furious, like World War X. Oh, how good is that? The song with Alyssa, I forgot the name of it as well. So good.
That's right.
It's just a powerhouse from start to finish. And this one just felt limp compared to that one. It's like all the spark died. It's like the fire isn't there. It's just kind of, I don't know, not mellow because it's not, it's not like the new Mastodon, but it just lacked something from World War X, the panache, the fire, the explosions. It wasn't in this album. So it's kind of disappointing to me. So I'm easily going to put it on my list, actually.
Yeah, I'm glad you included it because actually that was like my number 6 that got cut. And
really?
I was just as disappointed too. For the same reasons. I loved World War X, and this album just felt like a huge step backwards. Like it just felt like super generic, to quote the Metal Meltdown, meat and potatoes deathcore. Like I was even on his stream, and I was referring to a different band at the time, but I referred to another band as Kirkland brand deathcore, and that's kind of what this album feels like too. It's got a few good songs in the beginning, but especially like that Korn cover too. Like I could just do without that.
Dead bodies everywhere.
Yeah, it's like you can't beat Jonathan Davis on vocals, so don't even try.
If I'm gonna do what you do, and I'm gonna recommend Lord of Shores EP instead of this because it's way better.
Absolutely. That is a very good palate cleanser for that album. All right, my first one, and you already kind of gave me a nice little lead in there, and you already guessed what it was going to be. It's the most recent album on this list, and that is Mastodon's latest, Hushed and Grim. I know you enjoyed it. I know a lot of people are enjoying it, and as always, if you do, that's great. But me personally, like, this is my new least favorite Mastodon album. I've always ranked The Hunter last because it's... Well, actually, that's not even true now. I think I put Emperor of Sand maybe even lower than that on my tier list, but I don't really care for either of those albums too much. This is just boring, though. Like, I am just bored to tears with this entire album, and there's a few other people in the Discord too. I know Pair of Jeans and also Forge Master Metal Reviews. They were super bored with it as well.
It's very divisive.
Yeah, and I've even described this lately as like the cilantro album of the year, because it's like most albums, I can get why other people enjoyed it, but I hear people describe this album to me when they say they love it, and it sounds like they're describing a completely different album. So it's like cilantro, where like literally if you have that gene where it tastes like soap, you can't possibly understand what it's supposed to taste like. So I feel that way with this album. I'm just like, you either hate it or you love it, and personally, I hope to never listen to it again. I can find new appreciation now in The Hunter and Emperor of Sand, in that at least they have some good singles that I enjoy listening to regularly, but this album has not a single track really that I really care to go back to.
Not even Pushing the Tide?
Pushing the Tide's fine, but I'm kind of mad at that track, because when I heard that single, I was like, ooh, this sounds kind of like older stuff, except it still has the catchier chorus, but I was like, ooh, this is heavy and kind of weird, and the video had that like BDSM stuff in it. I'm like, this kind of, I could get down with this, but none of the rest of the album sounds like that. Like, not even close.
It is true.
So it's like, it's just lies. It's all lies.
It's to get you to listen to it, which you did.
Yeah. So my alternate recommendation for this one, I was kind of on the fence with this one, but I would say if you're going for something a little bit sludgy and proggy, go with the new Rivers of Nile. Like, I really enjoy that album. It's a little bit different than this. Or you could go with like Fractal Universe too for something that's more like almost
That's a
Opeth,
great one.
but that is a great album.
I love that. I guess I'm gonna say Rivers of Nile.
I
for
knew
my
you were
next one,
gonna
'cause
do that too. Go for it.
I love the Mastodon. By the way, I love the new Mastodon album.
Yep.
It's a double album, so I can understand why people don't like it. And most of the songs are so slow and mellow. I can also understand why people don't like it because it's basically like a Doom album.
Yeah, I was just
It
gonna
doesn't
say,
sound
as
like
a Doom
Mastodon.
fan, you probably can appreciate that more.
I
than
loved
can.
it. It's one of my favorite Mastodon albums.
That
we'll get
hurts
to that.
me.
We'll
that
get to
hurts
that.
me.
I mean, it's not as good as Leviathan and
Okay.
Remission and stuff.
Okay. Some people are saying like this is a
Yeah.
better version of Crack the Sky. I legit had comments like that, and I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like that will not stand. I'm sorry. You can enjoy it, but that's hard to hear.
I like it more than Emperor Sand and the poppy stuff that they did, but because this is not a poppy album, none of these fucking songs on Mastodon's album are pop. Like
they still have that pop
all...
production on Brand's vocals though, and that's something that has really bothered me since Emperor of Sand. I do not like how that sounds.
That is true. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Rivers of Nile, The Work. I hated this album when I first heard it. I still do not like it at all. I think it's just the album to me is like how you described Mastodon's album. I found it boring as hell the entire way through. Like the entire way through, I was so bored. Even the singles, when they started dropping, I was like, "What is this? Like this isn't the Rivers of Nile I know and love." I love all their albums, previous ones, not just Where Owls Know My Name. I like all the albums, but this one just didn't resonate with me at all. It was too just. I don't want to say mellow because I'm praising Mastodon for being mellow, but then Rivers of Nile was so just kind of it was boring. It was boring. It's porridge.
See,
it was the porridge of tech death. Archspire was way better than fucking Rivers of Nile. Not even close.
I mean, those are completely different albums, but yeah, Archspire killed it. Like that album is just so much fun. But yeah, the thing is with Rivers of Nile, I can appreciate all the comments I got on that one for people who said I hated it. This is boring. I can understand that. For some reason with Mastodon, I just can't at all. But with this one, I'm like, okay, I can understand why people hate it. I love it because it's more like weird and experimental, and there just hasn't been enough of like weird stuff this year. Like I always say, I want like an Igor, I want a Psy, which by the way, it looks like Psy is working on a new album, so I'm stoked about that. But there hasn't been enough. So for them to put out something that's just totally off the wall and kind of bizarre, and then also I love like industrial metal too, and there's a lot of tinges of industrial metal on this album that I really enjoy, and I kind of hope that they actually just do a straight up industrial metal album, because based on some of the singles, I think that they could really pull it off.
Yeah, they'd be good. That'd be interesting to see. And I do not hate this album. I listened to it. I was kind of bored, but I was disappointed with it compared to Where Owls Know My Name, which is one of my favorites of the year. This wasn't as good. So it's in my most disappointing. Not worst, but disappointed.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And I mean, that goes for most of the albums on this list. I'm not even going for like worst albums of the year. These are just ones that I had really high hopes for and kind of felt let down with.
Exactly.
So on that note, my next one is the newest, the newest Genghis Tron, Dream Weapon. So this was another very divisive album. Some people like absolutely loved it, although sometimes I feel like it's just people lying to themselves, where they're just like, oh, I can't say that I don't like it, so I'm going to force myself to believe I like it. But I'm sure there are people who genuinely do. But yeah, I love Genghis Tron as like a straight up mathcore kind of chaotic band. Board Up the House is a fantastic album from that era that I absolutely adore. And that was their original kind of like farewell. They even have a guest spot from Greg from the Dillinger Escape Plan on there. And so that's the type of music they were making. And now this album is just so far removed from that I was just like, even when I heard the singles, I was like, oh, is this going to be the whole thing? Because they were already playing with some of these more kind of like dreamy, sort of like shoegazy kind of elements, but it was never like the entire thing. And this album is just that. Like, it's a totally chill album. I didn't hate it. I can listen to it. I can appreciate while I'm listening to it. I almost compare it to like the Tron soundtrack that Daft Punk put together. Like, it reminds me more of that than anything else. And so it was just so far removed from what I was hoping for that it just was a big disappointment for me. There's still elements of their sound there, but for the most part, it's just not, it's not heavy. That's for sure.
Metal Trenches wants his heaviness.
I do. Not always, but I really do.
I can't comment on that because I haven't actually heard that album. Maybe
You
the
might like
commenters
it.
down below
I don't know.
Yeah,
If you have zero
I'll give it a
expectations going in, I don't know if you
Yeah.
like more kind of like drifty electronic kind of music, but that's sort
I
of what it
like
is.
the black metal electronics where they do dancey stuff, and it's kind of atmospheric, so I might like it.
Okay.
Maybe
Worth
like
a shot.
Masafim, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I might like it.
I'd be interested to hear what you think of this one. But my alternate that I would recommend that is still sort of a departure from the previous sound, but they've been heading this direction and it's gotten a lot more experimental, is The Armed. Their latest album is really cool, very interesting, a lot of different stuff going on, and they just put out like a full like movie to go along with it that I got to do a little screener for, and it was pretty cool. Like it's got some weird like Twin Peaks vibes to the stuff that they're doing in the videos. So yeah, check that out.
Spooky. Right. Okay. So my next one, I kind of want to swap this for an album that just came out. Kind of, but nah, fuck it. I will. I'm gonna go. I'm completely swapping my list out. I'm gonna go
Why
with the new
not?
Limp Bizkit album.
On the fly.
So Limp Bizkit still sucks. I'm gonna go for that.
Really?
Now,
Okay.
Yeah. It's Limp Bizkit. I can't slam too much. They're slamming themselves on the album, but after such a long hiatus, I want more than just 30 minutes of 1 minute song jokes. Like, it's fine, it's funny. When the songs are actual songs on the album, they're enjoyable. But when it's like a minute of just nonsense, people just arguing with themselves, it's like, I don't care. I want to listen to songs by Limp Bizkit. I prefer the songs. I even prefer the covers. I'd rather listen to Behind Blue Eyes than anything of this fucking album. I would.
That's rough.
I used to love Limp Bizkit. I mean, I still jam Limp Bizkit.
They have a place
but
in
this
my
one
heart.
this one's just a joke. Like, they're taking themselves not too seriously. It's the opposite. They're just taking the piss the entire way through.
Yeah.
And it gets kind of just annoying at that point where I'm like, just make an album. Just make it serious. Like, I like them when they're serious. Fuck it. Make a normal album.
Or at least
again.
like they're feigning the seriousness more. Like they're
exactly.
like, I feel like most of the time, even in their older videos, like they kind of know that they're like playing into this whole like tough guy gimmick and the Lamborghinis and the bikini girls, like, but they still play it serious. It's like the difference.
Played music.
You know what a good comparison is? It's the difference between Leslie Nielsen's performances in like The Naked Gun, where he still plays it straight as like the straight man, versus him later in like the Scary Movie movies, where they made him purposefully like stupid,
an idiot,
and that it's not as funny. Like, what's funny about Leslie Nielsen is when he just plays it straight in a situation that's ridiculous. Yeah, we need.
And in an airplane. Fucking love Airplane.
Yeah, Airplane, man, is great. But yeah, I can't say I'm disappointed by this album because I had zero expectations for it. And there were actually a few, because I had so low expectations, there were a few songs in the beginning that I was like, oh, this actually kind of like bangs harder than I thought it would. But then you get to the acoustic stuff and the cover and the barnacle, and it just like, it gets
falls
so
off
bad.
hard.
Yeah, at least it's short. I'll say that.
Yeah,
much.
at least it's 30 minutes. My pick that I would have picked instead of this, which I kind of swapped out last minute, was The New Out the Gates.
Yeah.
I liked that one. Didn't love it, but again, it was the same thing as Rivers of Nile. So I didn't really want to do a repeat because it was exactly the same criticisms I had for Rivers of Nile.
Yeah, I get that one too, for sure.
It was a bit weirder and more just out there, which is good. Yeah, it's good, and I enjoyed it, but it just disappointed me in comparison to the other couple that they made. So Limp Bizkit is my next one.
Limp Bizkit still sucks after all.
Yeah.
All right, my next one is Architects with For Those That... Wait, is it Wish to Exist or Choose to Exist? I'm realizing I wrote the album name down and I'm not even sure if I got it right. Something like that. For Those That Something to Exist. This album, I mean, I
There's
can't
no
say it
reason
was
to exist.
Yeah, I can't say I was horribly disappointed because again, like when I heard the very first single, like the year before it came out, I was like, oh, this is like Imagine Dragons stuff. Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about this. And that is like most of the album. It's not terrible. It's listenable, but it's definitely among my least favorite Architects albums. They've already been kind of like dropping in quality for me in the last couple of albums. So again, like my expectations weren't super high, but I was still hoping it would be better than it was. And they really just can't beat um, Lost Together, Lost Forever. I also can't remember if I'm saying that title the right way or not. And some of their earlier stuff too, like Daybreaker and even the album after that too. That was the one right before. I think a lot of it sadly has to do with the guitar player dying because he wrote a lot of their music. And so you can definitely hear a change in their sound after he passed away. So I don't want to go on them too hard. I feel like I did enough of that in the review, but yeah, it's just, it wasn't what I wanted. And I don't really have any sort of drive to go back to it.
Fair enough. A lot of people have said the same thing. A lot of people don't really like the new Architects album either. From forums and reviews I've been seeing. So
yeah,
I don't think you're alone on that one.
Yeah. Instead, I would recommend the new Spiritbox, even though I almost included that on this list too.
I almost included it as well.
Yeah, I was let down because it was so hype that the hype was like up here, and it was still like up here in quality, but it was like sky high hype for something that was just sort of good to above average. But I would recommend
didn't mind
it
the
over.
Hype.
You didn't.
I didn't mind the hype.
Oh,
no, I didn't mind it because my problem with it was that the EPs were better than the full album.
Yeah.
So when you have like a bunch of EPs they made and all the singles, they're way better than anything on the album.
Yeah.
And that just makes it a bit
I totally agree with that. And but yeah, it was still but if you want a good Architects album, check out this album because that's more or less sort of what it is. And honestly, I'm blanking on the Architects. Sam Carter has a guest spot on this album, and it kills. Like it blows anything from the Architects album out of the water. He sounds awesome on that track. So yeah, check out that album instead.
Hell yeah! All right, we're top 2 now, is it?
Yep,
I think so. Yeah. Oh god, here we go. Bloody Amazonia.
Oh no!
We're gonna slam some Gojira. We're going for the juggler tonight, boys.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Fortitude. I listened to it. I got into it when it first came out. Weeks and weeks after, haven't gone back to it. It just dropped off for me. It's just been like, there it goes, up, gone. Don't listen to it again ever. It's the Gojira album I just don't want to go back to. There's the songs in it are just not memorable aside from Amazonia. Like what's the one with the spacemen? New World. I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, Another World.
Another World. Yeah. That's a cool riff.
Great riff. Love that riff.
They repeat it the entire way through. It just gets a bit.
It is a little repetitive.
The rest of the songs I just don't care for anymore. It was fun when it came out, but it's the album that's dropped off the hardest for me out of all these albums. So this is probably the most disappointing, aside from my next one, but probably one of the most disappointing albums for me in the entire year. It's not bad again because I do enjoy it when I listen to it, but it's just not memorable in the slightest compared to loads of people hate Magma. I love Magma. I think the songs on that are way more memorable.
Magma lover. I think this is better than Magma personally, but I respect it. Like, yeah, I know. This is another one though that when people tell me they're disappointed, I totally get it. Like it doesn't upset me at all. It's still one of my favorites of the year, honestly. Like I really love this thing, but you know, I get it. I can appreciate it, and it wasn't what everybody wanted. So fair enough.
That's true. The end of Lowlands better than anything on this album.
Maybe our expectations played into this one too, really, because
maybe
you loved Magma, so your expectations were probably pretty high. I did not like Magma's like one of my least favorites, and so my expectations going into this one were really low. So maybe the fact that I was kind of like, oh wow, this is a lot better than I thought it would be, versus you being like, oh, this is not at all what I wanted, might have had something to do with it. I don't know.
That's true. I do think they tried the whole tribal thing a bit too much on it, and it did kind of sound like Alien Weaponry. They were trying to be Alien Weaponry.
It's better than Alien Weaponry, though. Talk about, man, I
That's
know a
true.
lot of other people listed
Tangaroa.
that as a disappointing album. I heard one song from Alien Weaponry and immediately was like, I don't get the hype for this album at all. Like I already did not like it from the get-go.
The first album's good. The
I haven't
first
listened
album's
to that
pretty
one,
good.
so maybe that's why. Do you have an
The good
alternate for
live.
this one that you would recommend?
Gojira's weird because what if it like tribal? Because it sounds tribal. The whole album sounds tribal. I could say Alien Weaponry, but again, this is better. So
Yeah, it's yeah, I don't think that's an upgrade.
no, it's not really. What kind of riffy band could we substitute for Gojira?
In this year?
I don't know really. Yeah,
You know what I would
Behemoth has
recommend?
what?
Although this is more me, but the new Between the Buried and Me, like I would there's
I'll recommend that for my number one instead of my number one, which we'll get to later on.
Oh boy. Okay. All right. Well, the cliffhanger there. All
Yeah.
right. My next one is A Day to Remember with You're Welcome. Holy crap. Now, not only is this most disappointing albums of the year, this is potentially worst albums of the year. Like, I think I'd rather
Ooh.
listen to Limp Bizkit. I don't think it's terrible, but if you saw my review of the Ice Nine Kills album, I didn't care for it, but I'd much rather listen to Ice Nine Kills. I would basically listen to any other album besides this album this year. Like, I really enjoyed
This isn't your number one?
No. I have another one. This probably could have been number one, but yeah, it's not good. This album is not good. There's maybe like 2 decent tracks on it, but it doesn't help that it's like super long too. I forget how many tracks it is, but it's got a lot, and they're all bad. Like it's just the corniest, most terrible thing ever. It's so bad, and I really like A Day to Remember. They've never been a band that I'm like a huge fan of. Their discography is kind of inconsistent, but they have certain albums that I really enjoy, and I just thought that they totally nailed that like pop punk meets metalcore sound, and they're like the perfect example of that. And now I'm just like, well, that's the end of that.
Wow.
Not
Harsh
good.
words there.
Yeah, I don't know if you listened to this one either.
No, I avoided that one. I saw it coming
Yeah.
out, and I know Jamie, he listened to that and he said it was awful, and he's a fan. So I was like, yeah, I'm not touching
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, this is one of the few where, and I always say, form your own opinion, go listen to it. I would never tell someone to not listen to something, but at least to you for this one, I'd say you are not missing anything. It's not worth your time, and it's too long to waste that much time.
Which, I mean, we disagree on a lot of stuff. Like I like the Ice Nine
Yeah,
Kills one.
I mean,
I like the Mastodon one.
Maybe you will like it.
So
I don't know.
maybe I'll like it. But
Basically, anytime I say I hate an album means you should listen to it, is what we're coming down to. What
Exactly.
I will recommend instead is actually not out at the time that we're recording this, but by the time this airs, it will be out, and that's the new See You Space Cowboy album, which I have been greatly enjoying. Another great mix of not only like metalcore and like pop punk singing, but also like mathcore. It gets really like abrasive and technical. This has super like 2000s metalcore vibes going back to stuff like Poison the Well, Zayo, early Under Oath, like all that kind of stuff. So highly recommend that one if any of those bands are up your alley.
all right, my number one.
Just let it out, man. Just let it out.
Are you prog fuckers ready? Dream
Okay.
Theater, A View from the Top of the World. I know Metal Trenches loves this one. I know you really want me to keep re-listening to it, but this is the album on the list I did not finish on first
Oof.
listen. I
As
got
a big
halfway
Dream
through.
Theater fan too, that says a lot.
I love
mean.
every single Dream Theater album. Aside from The Astonishing, which gets a bit long, but even The Astonishing has some songs in it I can kind of enjoy, like The Gift of Music.
Yeah.
But this one, it got to track 4 or 5. There's only about, I don't know, about 8 tracks on it because the last song is about 20 minutes long. It got to about 4 or 5, and I hated it. I didn't like anything
Wow.
I was listening to. I didn't like fucking anything. Like the production was so flat. It sounded so boring. James LaBrie wasn't singing properly. He was doing this whole lower register, and I guess because he can't really do the high
Maybe.
shrieks anymore, maybe. But it just sounded boring. I like him doing the high shrieks. I want his bad high shrieks rather than whatever the fuck he's doing on this album.
I just liked that he knew when to stay the fuck out of the way most of the album, because he is my least favorite element of their sound. Like, I don't like his vocals really in general. So the fact that there's so much instrumental sections, that's what I liked about it the most.
See, this is where we differ, because I like James LaBrie singing, and I love like the, you know, him singing like "Pull Me Under" or "Take Me As I Am."
He's got some great hooks.
Down. I like his singing. Not on this album, and it's not just the singing; it's the everything. When they were noodling, I was just like looking at my watch, and I'm just like, I want to listen to Cradle again. Why can't I be listening to like the new Archspire again? This is shit.
It's so funny to me too, because that's normally how I am. Like, I'm the one who's weird. Just like, oh, what is this? And I went into this expecting to kind of dislike it too, because in case people didn't watch my content on Dream Theater, I'm not only am I not a longtime fan, I have zero nostalgia for any albums, because I had not listened to a single one until a couple weeks ago, where I just marathon the entire discography. So maybe again, it was like different expectations coming in, but I couldn't put this album down. Like, I really expected to listen to it like 2, maybe 3 times and move on, but I kept listening to it and I had trouble moving on.
Again, it's the Mastodon or Gojira. No, it's the Gojira situation, because the previous album, Distance Over Time, I love every song on that. I think that's an amazing album and produced like fantastic. Everything's punchy. All the songs are memorable. Pale Blue Dot. Room 1, whatever it is. Maybe it's not that memorable, because I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah.
Bastard Warrior, like I enjoyed all those songs. This one, the 20-minute song was the best. That's all I can say. And I had to go back. I had to go back to the album, because I just didn't listen to it. I listened to half of it, got annoyed, went and listened to something else, came back to it, finished it, still was annoyed. Yeah, this is easily my most disappointed of the year, because it's a band that I love. So yeah, this is number 1 for me, Dream Theater.
And you already said which album you would swap out for it.
Yeah, Between the Buried and Me, Colors 2 is way
killed it. They killed it with that
way
album. Seeing them perform those tracks live, yeah, I got to see them perform some of that live too, and I was like, holy crap! They did the big like drum solo and everything. Oh my gosh, that was so good. Just as good live.
They killed it. They killed it, and I wasn't even a big fan. I was like, Between the Buried and Me, it's not really as good as Dream Theater.
Yeah,
and then look at us now.
It's almost like a student becomes the master situation, because obviously they're influenced by Dream Theater. But it's funny, because when I was reviewing the new Dream Theater, I had a couple of times where I was like, I feel like they pulled from Between the Buried and Me on this part on the Dream Theater album. So it's like they've like surpassed them at this point in terms of quality. But nobody thought they'd see the day.
No, but it happened, so here we are.
Yeah. All right, my last one. And again, maybe I should have done that other one first, because I hate that album more than this one. But as far as the disappointment factor and the hype behind it not matching the quality, I put Slaughter to Prevail with Costolom. And man, did I get so much hate for daring to say that this album is not good. Because man, the deathcore and nu metal fans alike came out in full force to support this album. But this album is not good. It is just not good, plain and simple. If you enjoy it, fine, great, good for you, happy for you. But it was a chore to get through, and it was disappointing, because like I really liked that single Baba Yaga. Like, that is a super fun deathcore song. I'd say that's one of the best deathcore tracks of the entire year. People are gonna remember that chorus, Baba Yaga, like it's maybe. So
yeah.
But the album does not live up to that whatsoever. And what hurt me the most too was so many comments being like, obviously they have a younger fan base who kind of just don't know any better, but they're like, oh, this is so new and original. Like, who else is mixing deathcore and nu metal like this? And I was like everyone. Thousands of bands have been doing this forever. Like, this even goes back to the self-titled Suicide Silence album, even earlier than that, really. Like, the Red Chord like has nu metal influences in it, and they're like proto deathcore almost. And then, but Suicide Silence has their self-titled album where Jonathan Davis actually sings on a song, and it sounds like Korn. So to hear all these.
How much more new metal can you get?
I know, it's like, so to hear all these fans be like, "Oh, this is so new and original," and just blows everything out of the water. I'm like, no, this sounds just totally like every other deathcore album and every other new metal album, but the worst elements of both come together just for a complete pile of garbage. So I was expecting this to be on my list of favorite deathcore albums of the year, but absolutely not.
Damn, I heard that. I had the displeasure of hearing it, and yeah, I agree with everything you said for this one.
Yeah.
Didn't live up to the hype, and it was hyped to fuck.
It was so hyped. Way too much, more than it had any right being. So instead, I would recommend Brand of Sacrifice with Lifeblood. That is still consistently my favorite deathcore album of the year. Spoil my list already, be damned. Like, that is, there's no surprise there. I've been hyping it up all dang year, and just the symphonic elements, the groove, the vocals, like everything, it's just tight. That whole album is fantastic. So yeah, I think that's all of our picks.
Yeah, we've gone through it all.
Yeah.
We're going to get some fun comments on this one.
Yeah, we'll get some hate, so put those down in the by all means. I like having conversations about differing opinions. Definitely check out Quest for Metal's channel if you haven't already. And yeah, stick around for more videos just like this one. But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off with Quest for Metal. And we'll see you in the trenches.